Imagine working yourself to the bone, trying to save lives, only to be called cursed by the very people you're trying to help. That was Grace's reality. But this is not just a story of suffering. It's a tale of betrayal, shocking twists, and a love that no one saw coming. How did Grace go from a cursed nurse to something much greater? Find out now. In the bustling city of Enugu, where red earth stained every footpath and the markets never slept, there lived a young nurse named Grace Okafor. She was quiet, gentle, and worked at a small clinic near Ogbit Market. The building was old, the equipment was outdated, and the pay was almost nothing. But Grace showed up every day with a smile. The neighborhood women would gather at the market and whisper as she passed by, "There goes Grace the cursed nurse," one woman said, shaking her head. Another clicked her tongue. "Every patient she touches ends up dying. That girl carries bad luck." Grace heard them. She always did. But she kept walking, clutching her worn bag and whispering to herself, "Even if the world curses me, I'll keep being a blessing." One evening, Grace was closing up the clinic when a woman rushed in carrying a baby. The child was burning with fever, shaking violently. "Please, nurse, help my son," the woman cried. Grace quickly took the baby and began checking his temperature. It was dangerously high. She needed medicine, but the clinic had run out of the right drugs days ago. "Madam, we don't have what he needs here," Grace said, her voice trembling. "You need to take him to the big hospital now." The woman's eyes widened. "But I don't have money for that hospital. Please, just do something." Grace did everything she could with what little she had. She gave the baby fluids, tried to cool him down, prayed over him. But by midnight, the baby stopped breathing. The mother screamed. She collapsed on the floor, wailing. Grace knelt beside her, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," Grace whispered. "I'm so sorry." By morning, the whole neighborhood knew. And once again, they blamed Grace. A few weeks later, something worse happened. A wealthy man named Mr. Raymond brought his elderly mother to the clinic late at night. She had collapsed at home, and he demanded immediate treatment. Grace examined the woman quickly. Her heart was failing. She needed equipment the clinic didn't have. "Sir, please," Grace said urgently. "Your mother needs to go to a bigger hospital. We don't have the machines to help her here." Raymond's eyes were cold. "Then do your job with what you have. Isn't that what nurses do?" Grace tried. She tried so hard. But the old woman's heart gave out an hour later. Raymond stood up slowly, staring at Grace with pure hatred. "You killed my mother," he said quietly. "Sir, I did everything I could. You're useless," Raymond interrupted, his voice rising. "A useless, incompetent nurse. I'll make sure you never work again." He stormed out, and by the next morning, Grace received a letter. She was fired. The clinic management said they had received complaints about her negligence. They couldn't afford the bad reputation. Grace sat on the floor of her small staff quarters, holding the letter in shaking hands. She had nowhere to go. No family, no savings. "God, why?" she whispered into the empty room. "What did I do to deserve this?" 3 days later, Grace was thrown out of the staff quarters. She carried only a small bag with her clothes, her stethoscope, and her mother's old Bible. The landlord, a fat man with no mercy, stood at the door with his arms crossed. "I said move," he barked. "This room is for clinic staff only. You're not staff anymore." Grace picked up her bag, her hands trembling. "Please, sir, just give me 1 more week. I'll find somewhere to go." The man laughed. "1 week? You think this is a charity? Get out now before I call the boys to throw you and your things into the gutter." Grace walked out into the hot afternoon sun, tears blurring her vision. She had nowhere to turn, no one to call. She wandered through the streets of Enugu with no direction, no plan. As night fell, the rain started pouring. Grace found herself walking along New Haven Road, her clothes soaked, her body shivering. People rushed past her with umbrellas, not even glancing her way. She felt invisible, like the world had erased her existence. That's when she saw it. A car had crashed into a pole. Smoke was rising from the hood, and a man was slumped over the steering wheel. Without thinking, Grace dropped her bag and ran to the car. The door was jammed. She pulled with all her strength until it opened. The man inside was unconscious, bleeding from his head. Grace quickly checked his pulse. It was weak but steady. She tore a piece of her dress and pressed it against the wound to stop the bleeding. "Sir, can you hear me?" she said, tilting his head to keep his airway open. "Stay with me. Help is coming." A small crowd gathered, but no one helped. They just watched. "Someone call an ambulance," Grace shouted. Finally, someone did. When the ambulance arrived, the paramedics took over. One of them looked at Grace. "You saved his life," he said. "If you hadn't stopped the bleeding, he would have died before we got here." Grace nodded weakly, drenched in rain and blood. As the ambulance drove away, she picked up her bag and quietly walked into the night. She didn't know that the man she had just saved was Mr. Raymond as the same man who had ruined her life. Grace spent the next 2 weeks sleeping under shop verandas and begging for food. Sometimes kind strangers gave her bread or water. Other times, she went to bed hungry, whispering prayers into the darkness. "God, I don't understand why this is happening to me, but I trust you," she would say, clutching her mother's Bible. One morning, Grace decided she had to do something to survive. She couldn't keep begging forever. She went to Ogbeat Market and used the last bit of money she had to buy a small basket of oranges. She found a spot under a torn umbrella and began selling. "Fresh oranges, sweet oranges," she called out, her voice weak but hopeful. The other market women stared at her and whispered among themselves, "Isn't that the nurse they fired?" "Yes-o, the cursed one. Now she's selling oranges." See how life can humble a person. Grace ignored them. Her hands were rough, her clothes stained, but she still smiled at customers. "How much for 6 oranges?" a woman asked. 50 naira, ma," Grace replied softly. The woman scoffed. "That's too much. I'll give you 30, Grace nodded. "Okay, ma." "Take it." As she handed over the oranges, she heard a voice behind her. "Grace." She turned around and froze. It was Mr. Raymond, standing there in a clean suit, staring at her like he'd seen a ghost. His face was pale, his eyes wide with shock. "Yes, sir," Grace said quietly, lowering her gaze. "Do I know you?" Raymond's throat tightened. He had been searching for the woman who saved his life for 2 weeks. The hospital had told him a nurse stopped his bleeding before the ambulance arrived, but she disappeared without giving her name. He had asked around, checked hospitals, even offered a reward. And now, here she was, selling oranges in the market. "I'm the man whose life you saved 2 weeks ago," Raymond said, his voice shaking. Grace blinked. She hadn't even seen his face properly that night. "I'm glad you're okay, sir," she said simply. "God is good." Raymond stepped closer, his heart pounding. "You saved my life, and I didn't even know it was you." Grace looked confused. "I don't understand, sir." Raymond's face grew heavy with shame. He took a deep breath. "I'm the same man who got you fired. The man whose mother died in your clinic. I blamed you. I destroyed your career. I'm the reason you're standing here selling oranges instead of working as a nurse." Grace's breath caught. Her hands started trembling. The basket of oranges nearly fell from her grip. You're Mr. Raymond?" Raymond nodded, his eyes filling with tears. "Yes, and I'm so sorry. I was angry, and I took it out on you. I said terrible things. I ruined your life, but you still saved my life, even after what I did to you." Grace looked down at her oranges, tears streaming down her face. She didn't know what to say. Her heart was a mix of pain and confusion. "I only did what was right, sir," she whispered. "I couldn't just leave you there to die." Raymond shook his head in disbelief. "You have every reason to hate me, to walk away and let me suffer. But you didn't, did you?" Grace wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "Hate is too heavy to carry, sir, and God teaches us to forgive." Raymond stood there, speechless. He had never met anyone like her. In a world full of bitterness and revenge, Grace chose kindness. "I want to make this right," he said firmly. "Please, let me help you. Let me fix what I broke." Grace shook her head. "You don't owe me anything, sir. What's done is done." "No," Raymond insisted, his voice rising with emotion. "I owe you everything. My life, my second chance. Please, let me do this." Grace hesitated, looking into his eyes. She saw genuine remorse there, something she hadn't seen the night his mother died. Finally, she nodded. "Okay, sir, A week later, Raymond came back to the market with an offer. He explained that his 7-year-old daughter, Ada, had been sick for months. She had a chronic illness that left her weak and unable to play like other children. Many doctors had tried to help, but nothing seemed to work. "I want you to work for me as Ada's private nurse," Raymond said. "I'll pay you well. You'll have your own room in my house. And I promise I'll treat you with the respect you deserve." Grace hesitated. The thought of stepping into a rich man's house, the same man who had once destroyed her, made her nervous. "Sir, I'm not sure I'm the right person for this," she said. "You're exactly the right person," Raymond said firmly. "You have a gift, Grace. You care about people in a way I've never seen before. Please, give me a chance to fix what I broke." Grace thought about it for a long moment. She thought about her mother, who used to tell her, "Grace, your name means favor. No matter what people say, God's favor will follow you." Finally, she looked up at Raymond and nodded. "I'll do it." When Grace arrived at Raymond's mansion in Independence layout, she couldn't believe her eyes. The house was massive, with high ceilings, marble floors, and a garden that looked like something out of a magazine. Servants moved quietly through the halls, and expensive paintings hung on every wall. But despite all the luxury, the home felt cold. There was no warmth, no laughter. Grace was shown to her room, which was bigger than any place she had ever stayed. There was a soft bed, clean sheets, and even a bathroom with running water. She sat on the bed and ran her hand over the blanket, tears filling her eyes. "Thank you, God," she whispered. "I don't know why you're blessing me like this, but thank you." The next morning, Grace met Ada. The little girl was lying in bed, her face pale and tired. She looked up when Grace walked in, her big eyes curious but cautious. "Hello, Ada," Grace said softly, sitting beside the bed. "My name is Grace. I'm here to help you feel better." Ada studied her for a moment. "Are you a doctor?" "I'm a nurse," Grace replied with a gentle smile. "But I'm going to take very good care of you." Ada's lips curved into a small smile. "Okay." Over the next few weeks, Grace poured all her love and skill into caring for Ada. She checked her vitals every day, made sure she took her medicine on time, and spent hours reading her stories and singing to her. She prayed with Ada every night, holding her small hand and asking God to heal her. Slowly, Ada began to improve. Her energy returned. Her cheeks regained their color. She started laughing again, something Raymond hadn't heard in months. One afternoon, Raymond stood at Ada's door and watched as Grace braided the little girl's hair. Ada was giggling, telling Grace about her favorite cartoon characters. Raymond's chest tightened. The same woman he had once blamed for his mother's death was now bringing his daughter back to life. That evening, he found Grace in the garden, watering the flowers. "Grace," he called softly. She turned, surprised to see him. "Yes, sir. Thank you," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "For everything you're doing for Ada, for giving her life again." Grace smiled. "I'm just doing my job, sir." "No," Raymond said, shaking his head. "You're doing more than that. You've brought joy back into this house. You've given me hope." Grace looked down, feeling shy under his gaze. "Ada is a sweet girl. She deserves to be happy." Raymond stepped closer. "So do you, Grace. After everything you've been through, you deserve happiness too." But not everyone was happy about Grace's presence in the house. Raymond's fiancée, Vanessa, was a beautiful woman who wore designer clothes and carried expensive handbags. She had been away on a business trip when Raymond hired Grace, and when she returned and found another woman living in the house, her blood boiled. One afternoon, Vanessa walked into the living room and saw Grace sitting with Ada, helping her with a coloring book. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "Raymond," she called sharply. "Who is this?" Raymond came into the room. "Vanessa, you're back. This is Grace, Ada's private nurse." Vanessa looked Grace up and down with disdain. "A nurse living in your house?" "She's helping Ada," Raymond explained calmly. "And she's doing an excellent job." Vanessa forced a smile, but her eyes were cold. "I see. Well, it's nice to meet you, Grace." Grace stood and bowed slightly. "Nice to meet you too, Ma." But Vanessa wasn't fooled by Grace's politeness. She saw the way Raymond looked at Grace when he thought no one was watching. She saw the softness in his eyes, the way his voice changed when he spoke to her. and she didn't like it one bit. That night, Vanessa cornered Grace in the kitchen. "Let me make something very clear," Vanessa said, her voice low and threatening. "Raymond is mine. We're getting married next year. So whatever little game you think you're playing, stop it now." Grace looked at her calmly. "I'm not playing any game, Ma. I'm only here to take care of Ada." Vanessa smirked. "Good, keep it that way. Because if I find out you're trying to steal my man, you'll regret it." Grace didn't respond. She simply turned and walked away, her heart pounding. She knew trouble was coming. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa made Grace's life difficult. She spread rumors among the house staff, saying Grace was trying to seduce Raymond. She criticized everything Grace did, from the way she dressed to the way she spoke. She even tried to turn Ada against Grace, but the little girl loved Grace too much to listen. One day, Vanessa came up with a plan. She took a gold bracelet from her jewelry box and hid it in Grace's room, tucking it under the pillow. The next morning, she gathered Raymond and all the house staff in the living room. "My bracelet is missing," Vanessa announced dramatically, her hand on her chest. "It's very expensive. Someone in this house is a thief." Raymond frowned. "Are you sure you didn't just misplace it?" Vanessa shook her head. "I'm sure. Someone stole it. We need to search everyone's rooms." Raymond hesitated, but Vanessa insisted. One by one, they searched the staff rooms. When they got to Grace's room, Vanessa walked in first. She pretended to look around, then suddenly gasped. "What's this?" she said, reaching under Grace's pillow. She pulled out the gold bracelet and held it up for everyone to see. Grace's eyes widened in shock. "I didn't take that. I swear I didn't." Vanessa turned to Raymond, tears filling her eyes. "I can't believe this. After everything you've done for her, Raymond, this is how she repays you." The house staff started whispering among themselves. Grace felt the walls closing in on her. "Sir, please," Grace begged, tears streaming down her face. "I would never steal from you. I don't know how that got there. Please believe me." But Vanessa kept pushing. "She's lying, Raymond. Look at her background. She's desperate. She was selling oranges in the market. Of course she'd steal from us." Raymond looked at Grace, disappointment heavy in his eyes. "Grace, how could you do this?" "I didn't." Grace cried, dropping to her knees. "Sir, I promise on my mother's grave, I didn't take that bracelet. Someone is setting me up." Vanessa scoffed. "Oh, please. Who would want to set you up? You're nobody." Raymond stood there, torn between his fiancée and the woman who had saved his life. Just as he was about to call the police, something stopped him. He remembered the CCTV cameras he had installed throughout the house for Ada's safety. "Wait," he said suddenly. "Let me check something first." He went to his office and pulled up the security footage from the past 24 hours. Vanessa followed him, confident that there would be nothing to find. But as Raymond watched the screen, his face grew dark with rage. There, clear as day, was Vanessa sneaking into Grace's room while everyone was asleep. She looked around to make sure no one was watching, then pulled the bracelet from her pocket and tucked it under Grace's pillow. She walked out with a satisfied smile on her face. Raymond's hands clenched into fists. He turned to Vanessa, his eyes blazing. "You did this." Vanessa's confident smile disappeared. "Raymond, I can explain." "Explain what?" Raymond shouted. "That you tried to destroy an innocent woman? The same woman who saved my life. I was just trying to protect us." Vanessa cried. "Can't you see she's trying to take you away from me?" "No," Raymond said coldly. "You're the one who pushed me away. With your jealousy, your cruelty, your lies. I thought I knew you, Vanessa. But I was wrong." Vanessa reached for his hand. "Raymond, please. I love you." Raymond pulled his hand away. "Love doesn't destroy people. Love doesn't lie. Get out of my house." "What?" "I said get out," Raymond repeated, his voice firm. "Pack your things and leave. We're done." Vanessa's eyes filled with real tears now, tears of humiliation and anger. "You're going to regret this, Raymond. You're throwing away everything we had for a poor nurse." "No," Raymond said quietly. "I'm throwing away a relationship built on lies for a chance at something real. Now leave." Vanessa grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The house staff stood in shocked silence. Raymond turned and walked back to the living room where Grace was still kneeling on the floor, crying. He knelt down beside her. "Grace, I'm so sorry," he said, his voice soft. "I should have trusted you from the beginning." Grace looked up at him, her face wet with tears. "It's okay, sir. You didn't know, but I should have known," Raymond said. "You've shown me nothing but kindness and honesty, and I almost let Vanessa destroy you." Grace wiped her tears. "God knows the truth. That's all that matters." Raymond helped her to her feet. As their hands touched, something passed between them, a connection neither of them could deny. In the weeks that followed, Raymond found himself drawn to Grace in ways he couldn't explain. It wasn't just gratitude. It was something deeper, something that made his heart beat faster whenever she walked into the room. He watched the way she cared for Ada with such tenderness. He listened to her pray at night, her voice full of faith despite everything she had been through. He noticed the way she hummed while cooking, the way she smiled at the birds in the garden, the way she treated everyone with respect, even the staff who had doubted her. One evening, they sat together on the balcony overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Ada was asleep inside, finally healthy and strong again. "Grace," Raymond said quietly. "Yes, sir. You can stop calling me sir," he said with a small smile. "Just Raymond." Grace looked down, shy. "Okay, Raymond." He turned to face her. "I need to tell you something, and I know this might sound crazy, but I can't keep it inside anymore." Grace's heart started racing. "What is it?" "They called you cursed," Raymond said, his voice thick with emotion. "The whole neighborhood called you a curse, but you've become my blessing. You've healed my daughter. You've brought light into this house." And he paused, taking a deep breath. "You've healed my heart too." Grace's eyes widened. "Raymond, I love you, Grace," Raymond said, his eyes locked on hers. "I know I don't deserve you after what I did. I know you could never forgive me for destroying your life, but I'm asking you anyway. I'm in love with you." Tears filled Grace's eyes. "You're a wealthy man, Raymond. I'm just a nurse. I have nothing to offer you." "You have everything to offer," Raymond said, reaching for her hand. "Your kindness, your faith, your strength. That's worth more than all the money in the world. You taught me what real goodness looks like." Grace's tears spilled over. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll give me a chance," Raymond whispered. "Say you'll let me spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of you." Grace looked into his eyes and saw something she had never seen before. Not pity, not obligation, but genuine love. She squeezed his hand. "Yes." Raymond pulled her into his arms, and Grace felt safe for the first time in years. God had truly turned her pain into purpose, her sorrow into joy. 6 months later, their wedding took place at Holy Trinity Cathedral in Enugu. It was a small ceremony, attended by close friends and family. Raymond had wanted something grand, but Grace insisted on keeping it simple. "I don't need a big wedding," she had told him. "I just need you, Ada, and God's blessing. That's all." Grace wore a simple white dress that Raymond had bought for her, and Ada served as the flower girl, her face glowing with health and happiness. As Grace walked down the aisle, she thought about her journey, from being called cursed to becoming a bride, from sleeping under shop verandas to walking toward a man who loved her deeply, from selling oranges in the rain to standing in a cathedral filled with people who celebrated her. When she reached Raymond at the altar, he took her hands in his. His eyes were shining with tears. The pastor smiled at them. "You may now exchange your vows." Raymond cleared his throat, his voice steady but emotional. "Grace, the first time I met you, I was the worst version of myself. I was angry, proud, and blind. I hurt you in ways I can never fully make up for. But you showed me grace not just in name, but in action. You taught me what real love looks like. You taught me that kindness is not weakness, and forgiveness is not foolishness. You saved my life twice, once on that road, and once when you walked back into it. I promise to honor you, protect you, and love you for the rest of my days. You are my blessing, and I will spend my life making sure you know it." Grace's hands trembled as she spoke, her voice soft but clear. "Raymond, when I had nothing, God gave me you. When the world called me cursed, you called me blessed. You saw value in me when I couldn't see it in myself. You gave me back my dignity, my hope, and my future. I don't have much to offer you, but I give you my heart, my loyalty, and my love. I promise to stand by you in every season, to pray for you, to support you, and to love Ada as my own. God turned my pain into purpose, and you are part of that purpose. I love you." There wasn't a dry eye in the cathedral. Even the pastor had to wipe his face before pronouncing them husband and wife. When Raymond kissed Grace, the small crowd erupted in applause. Ada jumped up and down, clapping her hands. "Daddy and Grace are married," she shouted with joy. After the wedding, Grace didn't forget where she came from. She approached Raymond with an idea. "I want to open a clinic," she said one evening. "A free clinic for people who can't afford health care, so that no one else has to lose their child because they don't have money." Raymond smiled. "That's a beautiful idea. Let's do it together." They opened Grace Haven Clinic in the same neighborhood where Grace used to work. It was a place where poor mothers and children could receive medical care without paying a single naira. Grace worked there 3 days a week, using her skills to serve the community that had once rejected her. The same women who used to whisper and call her cursed now brought their children to her clinic, grateful and humble. One day, an old woman approached Grace at the clinic. It was the same woman who had been the loudest in calling her cursed. The woman stood at the door, her head bowed. "Nurse Grace," she said quietly, "can I talk to you?" Grace looked up from her desk. "Yes, Ma. Come in." The woman stepped inside, wringing her hands nervously. I came to say I'm sorry. I was one of the people who spoke badly about you. I called you cursed. I said terrible things, but I was wrong. You're not cursed. You're blessed. And I'm ashamed of how I treated you." Grace stood and walked over to the woman. She took her hands gently. "We all make mistakes, Ma. What matters is that we learn and grow from them. I forgive you." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. God bless you, my daughter." As the woman left, Grace sat back down at her desk, her heart full. She looked around the clinic at the mothers holding their babies, at the children playing in the waiting area, at the nurses she had hired who were treating patients with care and compassion. This was her purpose. This was what God had lifted her higher for. Not just to escape poverty, but to lift others up with her. That evening, Grace came home to find Raymond and Ada in the living room. Ada ran to her and hugged her legs. "Mommy, I missed you." Grace smiled, her heart swelling. She still wasn't used to being called Mommy, but she loved it every time. "I missed you too, my sweet girl." Raymond walked over and kissed her forehead. "How was the clinic today?" "Busy," Grace said with a tired but happy smile. "But good. We helped so many people." Raymond wrapped his arm around her. "I'm proud of you." As they sat together as a family, Grace closed her eyes and whispered a prayer of gratitude. "Thank you, God, for turning my curse into a blessing, for lifting me higher than I ever imagined, for giving me a family, a purpose, and a love I never thought I deserved." This story teaches us that no one's destiny is too broken for God to restore. Even when others call you cursed, your kindness can become your crown. It reminds us never to judge people by their situation, but by the goodness of their hearts. True love isn't about wealth, status, or appearance. It's about seeing the beauty in someone's soul and standing by them no matter what. Grace's journey shows us that our lowest moments can become the foundation for our greatest blessings. The people who mocked her became the people she served. The man who destroyed her became the man who rebuilt her. And the curse she carried became the testimony that changed lives. To my amazing audience, what did you learn from this story? Have you ever been judged unfairly by others? Have you ever had to forgive someone who hurt you deeply? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up to let me know. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss the next interesting upload. Hit that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I post. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, no matter what people call you, God can turn your life around. See you in my next story.